Hello, I'm Miss Lea-Brown and today I'm going to read you a story called The Christmas Eve Tree, and it's by a lady called Delilah Heddy and it's illustrated by Emily Sutton. A forest of Christmas trees stretching over the hills. That's where the story begins. There the little fir tree was planted, but planted so carelessly, so that when the wind blew strong, it fell sideways onto its neighbour, and it had no chance to grow. The years went by till one December, when the foresters dug up the tree for the Christmas market. The little fir tree, stunted and still tangled with its neighbour, was loaded onto the trailer and driven down the motorway into the city. "Oh my," it said breathlessly, for it was at the bottom of the pile. The tallest trees were roped up and taken away, one to stand proudly in a cathedral, another in the middle of a large square, and the third to decorate the stage at the grand Christmas ball. But most of the trees were brought by ordinary folk for houses where there were children who covered them with stars and silver tinsel, chocolate mice and small secret parcels. The little fir tree and its companion were taken to a large store, where late on Christmas Eve they were the only trees unsold. A shopper hurried in to make a last-minute purchase. "You'll not need this weedy thing, miss," said the shop assistant, as he pulled the little fir tree from its roots of the bigger tree and threw it to one side. The customer smiled and went off, pleased with her buy. The little fir tree felt fearful of what its fate might be. There was a boy in the shop, drawn in from the rain outside, by the warmth and the lights, and the wonderful spicy smell of Christmas. He said, "Are you throwing that away? Could I have it?" The assistant looked at the little fir tree, hardly what you'd call a tree at all. He shrugged and handed it over. After all, it was Christmas Eve, and the store would be closing soon. The boy went outside into the cheerless evening. He held the little fir tree carefully in front of him so that none of its few crooked branches would get snapped off by the shoppers on the pavement. He set off on a long walk by the river. On his way, he found a cardboard box in a litter bin and took that along too. When he came to the river, the tide was out, and down by the steps, a small pebble beach was showing. The boy climbed down and digged in the mud with his hands. He planted the little tree in the cardboard box. Near the steps under the arches of the railway bridge, the boy had another cardboard box, big enough to sleep in. He put the tree on the pavement in front of him. "What a poor thing I am," thought the little fir tree. But the boy seemed pleased with his little fir tree. So the little fir tree felt more cheerful. "I belong to someone now," it said to itself, and it began to feel like Christmas. A passerby dropped a coin into the boy's lap. It was enough to buy him supper, but instead he crossed over to the newsagent and bought some candles and a box of matches. He fitted the candles to the branches of the little fir tree. Now other people were returning to claim their cardboard boxes for the night. They gathered round the boy and the little fir tree. An old busker with an accordion sat down, and soon the notes of Christmas song blended with the heavy rumble of the trains overhead. Everyone started to sing. The people gathered, home-going travellers, theatre-goers and sightseers. A policeman tried to move them on, but they stood where they were, the singing people, and the traffic was brought to a halt. The candles burned steadily, and the old man played, and the people sang. The little fir tree felt it was burst with happiness, for it was obvious the boy had forgotten that tonight he would be sleeping in a cardboard box under the railway arch, and that tomorrow he would not be eating turkey, and that tomorrow he would not be eating turkey, but soup in a soup kitchen if he was lucky. The magic of Christmas Eve was everywhere. A few days later, the boy moved on. "You're more dead than alive," he said sadly to the little fir tree as he went. And the tree, feeling dry and brittle, had to agree. But while other Christmas trees were piled into January bonfires, the little fir tree was put into a road sweeper's barrow. "There's a green shoot here," said the road sweeper, looking at the tree's roots, and slyly he planted it in the corner of the park gardens. "Well, you'll still find it. Not so little now, and against all odds it grew. If not big and tall, at least it will cheerfully stout. Now it stretches out its branches for sparrows, pigeons, babies in prams, lovers and office workers. Mice nibble at its roots." And as the winter days shorten, the fir tree dreams of its poor beginnings in the hills, of that magical Christmas Eve, and the sunny days in the park. "Who would have thought?" it says to itself, and it looks forward to another spring. The end. Thank you. Merry Christmas, everyone.